We have, here's an interesting story from Scotlandville. This gentleman right here, his name was Harold Tankhead Washington. He played 4 sports at Scotlandville. He ran track, he played football, he played basketball, he played baseball. Folks remembered him because he used to walk everywhere he went in Scotlandville. When he graduated from Scotlandville, he became a Muslim. He joined the Nation of Islam here and moved to California, where he got married. He and his wife moved to Colorado, and they had 1 son. Because he was a part of the Nation of Islam, he changed his name from Harold Washington to changed his name to Rashid Salam. He had 1 son who was named Rashid Salam. In 1991, Rashid Salam won the Heisman Trophy. He was the first defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy, but he was the son of a Scotlandville graduate. So we find out when we look up these old pictures. As a place back in the 60s, Anna T. Jordan was the center of activity in most of the summertime because you had swimming there, but you also had baseball leagues there, you had softball leagues there, you had hula hoops there, you had weightlifting there. Anna T. Jordan was the place to go in Scotlandville back in the day. You ask about this place. Scott's Bluff. And Miss Meadard.
Can you explain the significance of Scott's Bluff?
In the early days of funeral homes, well, we've always had to have a way to take care of our dead. Scott's Bluff was one of the early funeral homes, as well as Cox's Funeral Home, and both of these are still there. This is over on, is it Robin or Snipe Street? It's still there. Should be on there. And Scott's Bluff is still on Scenic Highway up there. In the early days, we always had to have funeral homes to take care of our dead. But one of the things we found in research is that in the early days, just like if someone had an accident here, EMS would come pick them up. That wasn't true back then. There wasn't an EMS service. And so the funeral home also had the only ambulances you could get to take you to the hospital. And so if something happened to you, you had to call the funeral home to get a ride to the hospital. Naturally, and the concern was if the folks didn't come and pick you up quick enough, they didn't have to take you to the hospital. They could take you straight to the funeral home and stuff, so you didn't have to worry about contacting 2 separate people. Scotts Bluff provided the funeral services for this community for quite a few years and still do today. I remember many a story. Miss Meadard had raised two adopted children that were twins, Alfred and Alton Cooper. They became our Scotlandville Cain and Abel story. Both of them were drafted. Both of them went to Scotlandville. Both of them were drafted into the military in the late 60s. When they came back from the military, one of them had a drug habit. The other one caught him stealing something from the funeral home and shot him, killed him, and got off with it. He couldn't deal with the fact that he had killed his twin brother, And so he drank himself to death. He drank 100 pipers every night for 6 months, and he died from cirrhosis of the liver. One of our Scotlandville Cain and Abel stories.
Scotts Bluff was not only a funeral home, but a literal bluff overlooking the Mississippi River on the edge of Southern's campus. It is named after William Bernard Scott.
Do you know what was there prior to the interstate and what happened to the property owned by the families that was used for the interstate?
Yeah. The interstate, when they designed the interstate, they look at buying up certain amounts of property. And back in the days, even today, when they design a new interstate, they have the right to offer the people along the way so much money for their property. And for the most part in Scotlandville, when I went to Scotlandville, they were still building the interstate. In fact, it didn't make it all the way up here when I was in school. The people that owned the property basically were offered a fair price, and they were moved to another location. Now, Scotlandville didn't have as many dramatic moves as South Baton Rouge did. We have a whole society of blacks that were transplanted to Scotlandville and other areas when they built the interstate through South Baton Rouge. But in Scotlandville, a lot of the property was farmland or land owned by the airport or owned by the city already.
And how did the interstate affect Scotlandville as a community?
Well, it gave us access to other parts of the city other than just scenic highway and flank road. You know.
I'm sorry.
And because of that, it gave us more access to commerce in other parts of the city. We could get to certain parts of the city a lot easier than having to, drive for a great deal of time to get there.
Was it any negative effects on Scotlandville?
Well, one of the considerations they said is that the interstate system gave the police department quick access to the people in downtown Scotlandville, and that's true. But it also gave us quick access to get people who might have been sick or ill out of Scotlandville to a hospital quicker. And so it was a deterrent on one hand, but it was a blessing on the other hand. The interstate system managed to get people in and out of Scotlandville in a hurry, which oftentimes was a joy for the people from McKinley whenever they came up to Scotlandville to play us in football or basketball. They were glad we had an interstate right there, unlike going to McKinley where you got to drive through the community to get to the interstate. Up here, they could leave Scotlandville and be on the interstate in less than a minute. And so that was a blessing to the people of South Baton Rouge.
And do you know of any well-known businesses that serve the community of Scotlandville before then?
Yeah.
Can you name a couple?
Yes. There was, in the early days, we had businesses like Mac Johnson's Realtors. I did some research on a number of businesses that were in the Scotlandville community. And if my memory serves me correctly, I have them on the jump drive with me. And it was service stations, restaurants in the community like Apple's. Yeah. I have Apple's in Ethel started at Southern University in about 1953, and they moved off of Southern's campus to the location that they're at now, and they've been there for 50-some years. We had, in the early days, have you heard of General Russell Honore, the guy that saved New Orleans, the general that went in and landed the troops? He also had a rally at the Capitol about 2 weeks ago, a rally for what he called the Green Army. Russell Honore's parents built a hamburger stand right at the corner of 78th Street and Scenic Highway called Burger Cream Town. And it stayed there for quite a few years. We have a Chevron station there now. We had a chicken shack, the original chicken shack, right across the street here, as one of the early businesses. We had Smitty's. Smitty's was at the location that Popeyes was at, right at the corner of where Scotlandville and Scenic Highway splits. Smitty's hamburger stand provided hamburgers for the community for 40 or 50 years right there on the corner. We never thought Smitty's wouldn't be there, and now we have a whole generation of people that never even saw Smitty's.